Nigeria's security landscape remains complex and multifaceted, with challenges that continue to test our national stability and, of course, its development.
Indeed, Victor. I know the threats keep evolving, especially across the northeast, northwest, and southeast. Terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, and cybercrime, just to mention a few.
And just when you think you've seen it all, new threats emerge, making security one of the most pressing national concerns today.
Absolutely, and the government has been stepping up operations like Hadinkai and Forest Sanity 3 have targeted terrorist networks head-on.
True, and beyond military action, we are seeing strong coordination, like the multi-agency anti-kidnap fusion cell, and increased collaboration with ECOWAS and international partners.
But now there's a new energy at the top. President Bola Tinubu's recent military shakeup has brought in a new chief of defense staff and fresh service chiefs across the Army, Navy, and Air Force.
Now, that's right, and this new team is coming in with a mandate to refocus strategy, reform institutions, and restore public trust in Nigeria's security operations.
Well, expectations are high. Nigerians want results, safer communities, better intelligence sharing, and greater accountability from our security agencies, Victor.
And, beyond the guns, Jumai, uniforms, the big question is, how will this new leadership address the root causes of insecurity? Issues like poverty, joblessness, and social exclusion.
Those are some of the questions, we'll be putting to our guests today as we examine the priorities before the new Chief of Defense Staff and the service chiefs.
I'm Victor Azu. Thank you so very much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. We are live on the network service of the NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Up next, the newspaper review with Chukwudi Okoli-Obaja. I hear his voice somewhere in the room. But first, it's Comfort Amodu with the morning news. Good morning, Comfort. You look good in that green.
Oh, it's lovely, actually.
Good morning, Victor. And Jume, that's what we're proud of, by the way. Our President Bola Tinubu has formally exercised his constitutional power of prerogative of mercy by signing instruments of clemency and pardons, granting pardons to specific individuals. However, following consultations with the Council of State and Public Opinion, the initial list was revised, and a statement by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, announced that serious offenders such as those individuals convicted of serious crimes like kidnapping, drug offenses, human trafficking, fraud, and illegal arms dealing were removed from the list. Bayo Onanuga explained that the government cited seriousness of the crimes, security implications, sensitivity to victims and society, and the need to support law enforcement as reasons for the stricter list. He said the President has moved the Secretariat for the Prerogative of Mercy to the Federal Ministry of Justice and directed the Attorney General to issue new guidelines. He added the new rules will require compulsory consultation with prosecuting agencies to ensure only those who meet legal requirements benefit, and the administration reaffirmed its commitment to broader judicial reforms and improving the administration of justice in Nigeria. Equally, Bayo informed that the approved list has been sent to the Nigerian Correctional Service for implementation. The Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has charged the Arewa Consultative Forum to stand in solidarity with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He made the call during a meeting with officials of the forum led by its chairman of the board trustees, Bashir Delhatu, at the presidential villa.
ACF is a tolerant organization. ACF does not play to the gallery. This is why when I met the president, he said, go and host them. They are wonderful people. Alhaji Nasiru Dano was there in the president's office. And over the past year, we have taken deliberate steps to reposition the fortunes of the North. We recognize that nostalgia is not public policy, and that the future demands innovation, not sentiment. The renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu prioritized education, agriculture, industrialization, and security as the pillars of Northern revival. And honestly, I'm very comfortable in my skin. I'm not afraid of tomorrow. The North has no business being poor.
Our Senate has confirmed Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede as Chief of Defense Staff alongside the 3 newly appointed service chiefs of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The confirmation was preceded by the mandatory constitutional screening exercise.
The nomination of Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede as Chief of Defense Staff is hereby confirmed for the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And the Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, and the 3 newly appointed chiefs of the armed forces have equally been grilled by lawmakers in the House of Representatives as part of screening processes in Nigerian's bicameral legislature. The service chiefs appeared before the Joint House Committee on Defense, Army, Navy and Air Force, assuring lawmakers of their determination to bring impetus into the operations of the armed forces in line with the dictates of the Nigerian Constitution.
The administration of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu is on the right path to providing the enabling security environment for socio-economic activities and endeavors to thrive and restore our dear country to the path of pride and success. I am honored to be considered worthy to play a part in these efforts, and I look forward to contributing my utmost best.
You're welcome back, and you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And before we go deep into our conversation this morning that borders on the tax ahead of our new service chiefs, let's take this background report by Ekene Dule.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approved significant changes in the hierarchy of Nigeria's armed forces, a move aimed at further strengthening the nation's security architecture. In the new appointments, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede takes over as Chief of Defense Staff. Major General Waidi Shaibu assumes command as the Chief of Army Staff, while Air Vice Marshal Sunday Aneke becomes the new Chief of Air Staff. The Nigerian Navy now has Rear Admiral Idi Abbas as its Chief of Naval Staff. Meanwhile, Major General EAP Ondiandeye retains his position as Chief of Defense Intelligence. The newly appointed service chiefs have appeared before the Senate, where they were screened and confirmed for their respective roles. Lawmakers charged them to bring renewed vigor, strategic innovation, and unwavering dedication to the fight against insecurity in all its forms. From terrorism and banditry to kidnapping and insurgency, the task ahead is enormous. Across regions, communities continue to face evolving security challenges that test the strength and resolve of the armed forces. But confidence remains high. These new service chiefs bring with them years of tested leadership, operational experience, and a deep understanding of Nigeria's complex security landscape.
The nomination of Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede as Chief of Defense Staff is hereby confirmed for the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
As they assume command, expectations are clear: deliver results, restore peace, and reaffirm the trust of Nigerians in the capability and commitment of their armed forces. The nation watches and hopes as this new team steps forward to write the next chapter in Nigeria's fight for security and stability. Today on Good Morning Nigeria, security experts seated in our studio will be speaking on the task ahead of the new Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chiefs.
All right, many thanks, Ikeren Dule, for that background report, and joining us here in the studio to discuss the task ahead of the CDS and Service Chiefs. Let me make welcome Wing Commander Musa Salman, retired PhD, Security and Development Experts. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, let me also welcome Professor Hiz Odije Bataku, who is a behavioral change and regimental effectiveness consultant. She also consults on non-kinetic interventions. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning.
And also joining us here in the studio is another regular on the program, Patrick Ababu, President, CEO, Security Watch Africa Initiatives.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Good
And
morning.
from our Jos studio, we're being joined by Major Gabriel Aduofiko, retired MD, CEO, Damex Consultants Limited, Development and Security Consultant, one-time Secretary General, retired Army, Navy and Air Force Officers Association, and consultant on integrated community development initiatives under the UNSDP programs in several states in Nigeria, Ghana and Sierra Leone. He's joining us from our Jos studio. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's nice being with you again, Jumai and the team there.
Not in our studio, actually, so we'll be seeing
right.
across the aisle. Yes.
Let's begin from here, and I'd like to start from Patrick Abambo. In your experience monitoring security situations across Africa, given that experience, what would you say is the most important task ahead of the new CDS and Service Chiefs at the moment?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that the most important task is, first of all, to continue and consolidate on what is on ground. They already have their job cut out for them. And so they need to be able to understand, which I make bold to say that they already know, because they are coming with a resume that is well-grounded and experienced on what is the challenge before the country. Speaking with some of them yesterday, they're already ready to start up. They're just waiting for the formal take-off today, which will be done this morning. And so all they need to do basically is consolidate, rejig any parts that has not given much of result. The challenge is there for everybody, so they know that themselves. The men are there, equipment is there, the willingness by the government to support them is there. Just again to buy in the communities, that is the next thing, because today, as we speak, there are still some who believe that the security challenge in the country is for the government. They are not, some citizens believe it's not for the citizen to handle. So there's need for them to also buy in the people to be part of the move, because it has to be a whole of society approach, without which no success can be achieved. Then continue with the reform in terms of, I'm happy that Professor Hayes is there, issue about behavioral, the attitude of some of the soldiers. Mm-hmm. The officers, I could say, are much better, but the soldiers, some of them, due to the challenging situation in the country, is affecting them in carrying out the duty they are supposed to do. So consolidate with what is on ground. Don't tinker much with it, because it's already set up. The agenda is there. Then buy in the people, the communities and the people, get their confidence. Then make sure that the people, the soldiers particularly, the airmen and the seamen, that they all understand and work together with the programs that are laid out.
Okay, thank you so much for your opening comment there. Let's bring in Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired, into this conversation. You know, President Tinubu's decision to remove and replace and appoint new service chiefs generated a lot of discussions. It was a shock wave, you know. People were getting, you know, the news was just coming in and people were saying they'd be removed, they're still there. So it was a shock. Some of them were still in office. So from your perspective, what message is the president sending with this reshuffle? That's my first question. The second one is, how significant is this change in Nigeria's security architecture at this point in time?
Well, thank you. So the message is clear. I'm the commander-in-chief, and I think in one of the responses it was clear. I'm the commander-in-chief, and as the commander-in-chief, constitutionally and so on, I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't go into that, but operationally you have the responsibility, as every commander would, from time to time look at the theater, look at everything and say, okay, who or what do I need to do to ensure that my objective is achieved? As the commander-in-chief, you have a responsibility, and the president, you have the responsibility to provide basic safety, security, and so on and so forth. So it's important that from time to time, you look into what every of your appointee, amongst whom are the security chiefs, to see how they are doing, how they are performing, not necessarily because they are doing bad, but because you want a redirection or something, so you could change. So I think it's normal. After all, in the harmonized terms and conditions of service, even though it has an open-ended, but in the first instance is 2 years, so they have passed the normal 2 years. They were just on an extra years and so on. So I see it as a normal thing. It's a routine thing in the military. One commander, let's go down just beneath the service chiefs, theater commanders, general officer commanding, and so on and so on. The service chiefs themselves routinely rotate them, change them, post them. It doesn't generate much issue. But I think there's this, it's understandable. They are the head, there's the political part of it, and so on. So if you remove all that, I think it's routine, it's normal, it's expected, and it's within the right of the commander-in-chief, the president, in his capacity as the commander-in-chief. So it's normal, and I think Nigerians, we should not take it so much. It's a routine military exercise. It gets done everywhere. Then in terms of the significance to, is it the security?
Yes. Yeah. Security architecture at this moment in time.
My issue is that you've heard, like he rightly said, you've heard the resume of this great servicemen. None of them has stayed less than 30 years doing the same thing, right from the Defense Academy to holding commands, and they have been everywhere. They have shown their capacity. So they have the capacity to achieve. They have shown that they could do it, and so on. And you heard them. Now, but the issue, like you said, the architecture is such that they are very likely not to perform too far than the previous ones. Not because they lack the capacity, not because they lack the will, but because the architecture itself is such in a way that it doesn't, or it wouldn't allow them to perform.
How?
What do I mean by that? Now, when they were appointed, when they were appointed, they saw the president a day after. They saw the president, right? They saw the NSA. They saw who was the other person they visited? The Minister of Defense. The two ministers, okay, I saw just one, but you know, so that's the Minister of Defense and so on. Now, that architecture is where the problem, in my own thinking, is. The Chief of Defense Staff is such that, yes, he's the #1 military man. He's a 4-star general, he's supposed to be the principal advisor to the CNC on issues that have to do with that in terms of. But now, because of what we had during the military era, what we are having now is nodes of command scattered around. Now, by who they saw, the 3 people they saw, they're beginning to feel that we know as the CNC is up there, he's the CNC, but in terms of deriving or command and so on, who are they actually reporting to, or who are they going to take that command from? And is it one person? There's what is called unity of command, or there's centralization of command or operations itself, and decentralization of executions. Now, if the president wants to give his commands, say, this is what I want, this is how I want the theater to be coordinated and so on. He is talking to 3, if not more people at the same time that have almost concurrent power. Yes, I know that there is the CDS, but in reality, that have concurrent power. He talks and comes and say, I want ABC. The man, the chief of army staff, has an idea how, using the army, he's going to achieve that. The chief of naval staff, the chief of air staff, and including the chief of defense staff himself. Now, when they get out of that room to kind of compare notes and so on, everybody is coming with a different idea on how to achieve that. Of course, these ideas could be shaped by their service. You know, if you're in the army, if you're in the navy, so the thinking will be that. So now, we now tell them that at the end of the day, CDS, put them together, ensure synergy. Now, that's not bad, but the problem with what we have on the ground is that when you do that, everybody has an idea of how he's going to achieve that. Now, so what, in my thinking, so you find out that there are chiefs, everybody is not of command everywhere. When they go, maybe they are going with, excuse me, they are going with the NSA. The NSA also has an idea of how he thinks that should be achieved. The Minister of Defense also has an idea of what he feels should be done. So you're having 3 to 4 people thinking, all of them, to be fair to all of them, want to achieve this objective, Mr. President's objective.
So who unifies all of these
So
ideas?
who is going to unify all of this? Now, what should have been done, in my thinking, is that when the minister or when the president speaks, he speaks to one person, Chief of Defense Staff. You are my principal military advisor. I want ABC. The Chief of Defense Staff now comes and says, okay, Mr. President, he looks at what he has. He looks at the Army, Navy, Air Force, and now thinks, who is the best to achieve this task that is given? He now tags that particular service and say, okay, I want ABC. Now, so in this arrangement, what the services will be doing is to recruit, train, and equip. They get the forces ready for a deployment by the Chief of Defense Staff, because then he is given that responsibility, and therefore he's going to task. When you have joint, so that means in terms of procurement and so on and so forth, services would know this is what we need. As the Air Force, for example, the Air Force will say, these are the platforms we need. The Army will say, these are the platforms we need. They have those platforms. When a task comes from the chief of, from the CNC to either the minister or the Chief of Defense Staff, he now says, he looks at it and says, okay, the Army will lead in the execution of this task. So he appoints maybe a commander that is to lead on that.
I think this is a whole lot of complication, but we will go into this later on so that we begin to understand how we can prefer solutions to,
how to break it down,
what it is. Yeah. Because I see in there still a role for the National Security Advisor. In there, I see a role for the Minister of Defense because there are civil servants.
So this National Security Advisor, so I think what we are having is that everybody chipping out of that power. The National Security Advisor, in my thinking now, of course, is getting, sorry to say, too involved in the command structure itself. Okay. Now, because if you went to, because who you visit, who you pay the first visits to, or who you whatever, says a lot about what it is. The President, National Security Advisor. So what is the role in that chain in other countries? What is the role of the National Security
We'll make an attempt to define all of that in due course. But let me get to Prof now. How important are non-kinetic measures in the scheme of things? And how effective will that be when you are dealing with the Boko Harams of this world, the Lakurawas of this world, the banditry that we see all over the place? Where is the place of non-kinetic measures in all of this?
When you look at the context of what you call non-kinetic interventions, we realize that the public, the communities are central in impact and also in execution of whatever operational support is required at that point in time. Every community can see movement. They are the eyes and ears on ground. Every community can see supplies coming in and out, can see strange faces. However, if there's a disconnect between the security services, because according to statistics, Nigeria is over 200 million and standing, because before we started this program, many babies have come into existence in Nigeria. And by the time we are done, more would have come in. So our population is rapidly expanding. It's multiplying, as it were. Now, when we juxtapose that with the limited number of personnel in all our services, they cannot be everywhere at every point in time. Non-kinetic intervention says that communities take ownership and they have the complete buy-in. So when we talk about winning the hearts and minds and then having a positive perception of the security services, they now become friendly allies in ensuring that security is enforced and is kept in the community. When we talk about early warning and when we talk about funny movements and even in the context of intelligence gathering, it is the community that provides support. So when you look at non-kinetics, prevention and management is always better than cure. That is where non-kinetics comes in. So when we talk about civil-military relations or civil-military affairs, it is core right in the middle, smack dab in the middle. It's core and central in every single thing you are doing. It is the community that will ensure that operations of whatever sort is carried out effectively. They are the ones that will provide knowledge of the geographical challenges, the topography, and every single thing that is required by the security services.
But how effective can that be where we have the fear factor being used by bandits, where people, they look for those who become informants or who give information to security agencies and hunt them down?
You see, the truth of the matter is that these people are not recruited into these criminal activities in isolation. Oftentimes they come from those communities who understand the local language, the customs, topography, and every other thing that is, involved in that community, so that they have strategic knowledge. For these new service chiefs as they're coming in, non-kinetics is very, very, very key. Very, very key. Because when you look at the unique knowledge of a particular area. For example, you have people come in, attack a community and disappear into thin air. They literally did not go into thin air. But because they know the escape routes, be it by air, by water, by sea, the challenges, they are able to take advantage of that. So it is left for the security services to understand that if we have a cordial relationship with this community and we give them what is called a middle ground where they understand that the security services are on their side and are there for their protection, then they will have more cooperation. And the people's perception of the security services is that these people are here to help us. I know that the DHQ, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, as much as possible, they try to do a lot of civilian military mitigation. They do a lot of interface with the public, but more needs to be done. More strategies need to be carried out. I know that consistently they try to fine-tune the process. I try to provide support in that area. But there's still a lot more ground to cover. Because like you said, the fear factor has to be overcome. There's what you call the weaponization of fear, or the psychology of fear, which all these criminals use where they threaten these local community members, especially in outskirts or far-flung areas who have limited communication and even access in terms of road or water. So these people, as they are on ground in those communities, the system from the CDS to the CNS to the CAS to the COAS, all of them need to tap more into all this knowledge, into the experiences of the communities, and then understand ways, do what you call a needs assessment, so that at the end of the day, you are coming in not with assumptions, but you are coming in with clear plans that have components that have been built by sure tested knowledge from the people on ground, the indigenous.
Indeed, non-kinetic approach is very important to solving the security situation. It's multidimensional,
yes,
actually.
Yes,
okay, let's bring in Major Gabriel Aduofiko into this conversation. He's joining us from Jos. You've listened to the guests here in the studio with your contributions. Now, in your opinion, do you think a change in leadership will automatically translate to improved result, or do you think there is a deeper structural reform that is needed in the security architecture of Nigeria?
Thank you very much. First, permit me to say this, that I'm not sounding patronizing, but permit me to appreciate the team that has just left the stage. That's General Musa and his team. They've done very well within the ambit, within the provisions of the capacity available to them. And I can tell you from the field that the society appreciates their efforts. Secondly, I want to mention here that it's like we are yet to get out of this trap. Whenever there is a transition in the armed forces from one set of leadership to the other, you hear languages like has been removed. You hear languages have been sacked. You see, you don't give a negative connotation to something that is positive, that is real. Those of you, particularly my wing commander there in sitting with you, he will understand what I'm saying. If you are a pilot and you continue flying, there is a certain limit after which, if you are subjected to continue flying because you are available, you may get war weary. So too with the other armed services in the armed forces. But I think the point is this. Because this team that has just left has left a stage that we have more expectations. More expectations, not from the fact that they did not perform, but that they are taking us where we want to be, and we are anxious. I think that's the right word. The society is anxious to see a push. This team that has come is a formidable team. Thank God I have a fair background knowledge of each and every one of them, though some of them, I think virtually all of them were not in the academy when I left the service. But the point remains, I follow their history and I know them. When I saw the name, I quickly checked on my system, and it's clear that this is a team that can take us to where we are. All we need to do now, like one of the consultants there spoke, the system, that is the structure, the governance management system must be strengthened to support these guys to do their job unhindered. They know what to do. Go there. We have an invasion, decisively deal with the invasion. We have an insurgency somewhere. Go there, crush the bastards, and get the society calm down to do their daily living. That is the kind of thing we should be working out. And like the other professor mentioned, non-kinetic. Look, non-kinetic does not translate to negotiating with bandits. Non-kinetics does not translate to giving an image that these invaders have become superior to us. Non-kinetic does not translate to mean, I beg, take them easy. No. There is no take them easy in it when somebody has come to kill, to destroy, and to maim your citizens. What you do, you take decisive actions to crush them. And I think that should be the message which I know must have been passed across to these young men by the CNC. Go out there, check your system. Thank God in his statement, I listened to the new Chief of Defense Staff, General Louis, whom I know is a very serious combat officer. He said it while talking to the Senate. He said they will need the necessary wherewithals, if I could paraphrase, to get this job done. Therefore, what we should be saying now is mobilizing everything necessary to give these guys the support, to crush these elements, and then let us sit down to politicking after that. That is my little take for now. The assignment is clear-cut. These guys are set. They are capable. They are competent. They will do the job. But we need to give them the necessary strength, particularly in the development of their various platforms, to carry out the job. I know what I'm talking about. Somebody mentioned drones. What if you set out your drones and the drones go there and do your aerial, technologically based surveillance? and you don't have the manpower or you don't have the logistics capability to follow it up with the necessary action, your drones will be a waste. That is something else for some other discussions. But for now, these guys know their jobs. Let us support them in whatever way. Encourage them. Go back to our various communities. Tell them the new guys are not, they are not angels from anywhere. They are your boys who have also grown, and they are competent, they are ready. We give them the necessary local support. Yes, information is necessary at the grassroots level. Look, let me state this loud and clear here. Most military men know more about the geography of this country than the rest of us, because in their practice and training, it is man to earth. You mind to earth. I think that's the language. Mind to earth. So they know it. But what we need is the support they should have. And this support, like was mentioned earlier, would come with our total, involvement in the security. Permit me also to mention here that when you are talking about security, you are not just talking about the combat aspect of life. You are also talking about the survival aspect of life. There is the food element, there is the economic element, there is the social element. When you put all this together, then you get a concise security management system. So please, once again, I want to say these boys are good. Let us remove any negative connotations of removal, replaced. No. They have come to continue where their predecessors had stopped. And that is the way this thing would go.
Major Dofiku, thank you very much. We are not replacing you yet. We'll just come here and return to you subsequently. But let's remind our viewers that we're expecting your messages. Keep them short, keep them simple, with your name and where you're writing them from, so that we can take as many as are possible. Thank you very much. Let me get back to Patrick Abambo. Now, public trust in the military is a bit fragile. What do you think that this new leadership can do or should do to regain public trust, at least improve it?
Okay, now I think first we need to understand where what made it fragile. First is the years of military rule.
That's a long time ago.
Which is a long time ago, but some people still have the hangover, I should use the word, that these people have just come to plunder, to kill, to do a lot of things, and not caring even if anybody is hurt or not. So people still have this them and we factor. So it's a big problem for the military themselves, even though over time they have tried to show that they're actually Nigerians and they feel the situation, they are part of the whole system. So, but still, some people still hold back. Then secondly, it's, a lot of Nigerians still consider issue of political leaning, ethnic leaning, religious leaning in their thinkings and their actions most of the time. And I can tell you that some people believe that if now is the President Tinubu that appointed the services, so these people are working for him. If I'm not in a political class with him, if I'm not in the same political party, I must not support them so that he will not succeed. They still have that holdback. Some believe that, oh, where are they from? Where is this person from? No, I should not. So they still have all these things. But over time, working with the military, I can tell you that they have shown that no, we are working for Nigeria. We are not particularly, yes, the president is the commander-in-chief, but we are working for Nigerians, because that is why names matters a lot. In all the services, you see Nigerian army, Nigerian, because they are Nigerians and they are for Nigeria. So they want to let people know that we are for you. But a little bit again, they feel that government failure to meet their aspiration also translate to the security agency's failure. They would rather want to hobnob or cooperate with the enemies of the society for one reason or the other, for either because of monetary values or whatever, or sentiment, than than even work with the security forces, both the military and the other security paramilitary agencies, to the extent that some are beginning to even form their militia groups. Ethnic militia groups are clustered in nearly all parts of the country, creating more problem. What they need to do really is, with all this, which I know, because I know that these people we have, drawing from the experience they have, they will understand this challenge. What they need to do is get closer more to the people through the non-kinetic approach. Also encouraging government. I went to a community that it's not from the city, it's not more than 20 kilometers. And it took us almost 2 hours plus to get there. And so how do you rescue or respond to challenges when it gets there? So when they don't respond in time, when there are crises, the people transfer this disappointment to these security agencies.
Why did it take you 2 hours to get there?
Bad road, no infrastructure. Vehicles cannot even easily access all these areas. So there have been a lot of overtime neglects. She mentioned about remote areas. We talk about security in the cities and metropolitan areas, but you need to visit, which like I did in the last 2 months, visiting some very remote areas in the country, and I can tell you that it's as if those are different. They are not living in Nigeria because they have not had the impact of government felt in any way. The only closest people they have is these bandits and these terrorists, and they offer them what they could consider as succor. I've see one of the commanders, try to tell them, yes, they may give you water today, but tomorrow they are taking your blood from you. So you rather choose. Now we know government will try as much as possible, whatever we have, give them. Some commanders had to provide some basic necessity for these people to survive. That is as much as they are doing, and that is not supposed to be their responsibility. But just to be able to make sure that their work is successful, because just like she pointed out, we all agreed that you cannot work in isolation. You need the people. So they are gradually trying to build up. We went to a community, wanted to speak with some people, but they are not ready to talk with us. They would rather want to talk with criminals if they have this thing. They are not ready. But there was a place we went to, because over time they have been neglected, but now they are seeing the military coming to provide support for them. They are ready. They're embracing everybody now. So gradually it's happening. Over time, the neglect has been there. With time, gradually, with since the various department services set up the civil military departments and relations, things are beginning to get improved a little bit. And there's one thing that some of the services have also done by saying if you have, for instance, Major General and its equivalent in most services from a community, we are going to make an impact in that your community, so that the people will feel that, yes, we are proud that our son is in this service. It's beginning to have positive impact also. So gradually, so communities are, our own son must become this so that we can benefit from this. So it's beginning to create that aspiration that we must be part of the military service through our sons and our daughters, so that things will get better. We'll get this test of these beautiful infrastructures that are coming in. So these are the things they are doing. They should sustain it, but they need the political support. They need everything. He mentioned one point that is very, very clear. Political intervention in some issues have affected their activities also. Then the bureaucracy, do you understand, a lot of things that needs to actually be defined, because there are some countries, when you was talking, I can tell you some countries that the Chief of Defense Staff reports directly to Mr. President, because he's a commander-in-chief. And it doesn't have to go through most of the bureaucratic situation we have in this country. So he hears from him directly.
So what would be the role, for instance, I had asked earlier, in this circumstance, what would be the role for the National Security Advisor and then the Minister of Defense?
National Security Advisor advises the President, who is a special advisor, like other special advisors, on issues of security generally, both human security, physical security, all this.
So it's an additional voice to that of the
exactly
the CDS.
Do you understand? So all these CDS specialize in the area of the military and the defense of the country. So it's something that we should first of all streamline very effectively. The minister is for the political interventions during the Federal Executive Council meetings and all those issues, administrative areas. But in terms of operations, strategies, and techniques, the Chief of Defense Staff should have direct access and direct interaction and relationship with the Mr. President. Of course, he could delegate, the President could delegate through his advisor to intervene once in a while, but that should be something that we need to look at the structure for them to function ultimately better.
For them to function ultimately, that's the key word. Now, Major Aduofiko mentioned, technology, which is very, very important in fighting insecurity anywhere in the world. We've seen how AI is working now. We've seen how the Americans are using drones to locate terrorists and crush them, like Major Aduofiko says. So, what role should technology, and intelligence, led operations play in shaping Nigeria's security response to this hide-headed, monster we call insecurity in Nigeria, because it's just spreading. It's a snake that has so many heads.
Well, yeah, technology has a very big role. When you listen to them yesterday, specifically, I think I listened to the Chief of Naval Staff where he spoke about, Chief of Army Staff. I think he emphasized the role of technology, or what he's going to do in terms of technology and so on. So technology is actually a force multiplier in the sense that it helps to fast track, to facilitate, to get all this information. And it's very important, whether the technology is used in terms of gathering information, that's in terms of intelligence, or it's even used as platform in response for kinetic means and so on and so forth. Or it does wonders. Now, technology in itself is not enough. Now you have to look for the person behind the technology. That's now what brings about the issue of training, retraining, and so on in the use of that technology. And also look at if, like, I think, is it you or some Major Luke said, if you get the technology, you get the information, you get the intelligence, your capacity or ability to respond immediately is also very important. Because this target or this information continuously is an evolving theater. To what is here now is, and that's why you have heard in the past, where when you talk closely to the airmen, and that's those in the Air Force or even in the Army, when there's this collateral damage or when there is this mistaken bombing, you find out that 10 minutes ago, the information was correct, right? The information that got to the pilots or the information that got to the UAV operators was correct.
But time changes.
Yes, but it's constantly moving. If there, for example, there are not rebels, bandits, that there's hot pursuit, for example. In this minute, this is where they are. In the next minute, they are on motorcycles, for example, and there's hot pursuit. They will have changed locations. So technology is very good and it's very important and we need it, but we need to support technology with other issues. We need to support technology with infrastructure. The ability we need to support technology with mobility. We need to support technology with so many other support mechanisms that will ensure that those that are using that technology, the means through which that technology is used is enhanced. That way, technology will be very, very important, will serve its purpose. But technology for technology's sake, I'm afraid it's just going to be the same thing. We're going to get more gadgets, for example. We're going to, very expensive, by the way.
And the gadgets keeps evolving.
Yes, and the gadgets keep evolving. But if we do not improve on the other aspects that make technology to actually deliver, then we will be left in the same space, if not worse.
But we can do it, can't we?
Now, we can do it, but you see, this is where, when they talk of whole of society, this is where the issue of politicians come in. Now, if you are operating in a state where, like he said, it took them 2 hours to go 20 kilometers, that's an average of 10 kilometers per hour. I mean, you have to be crawling to
get there.
So the soldiers' mind is not the responsibility, or they will not have the resources to say pave a village road. We heard, for example, the last time there was a time that an aircraft got stuck, right, in one of the theaters, and that ensured that when the troops withdrew, the bandits captured and burnt it, and so it was not that there was no malfunction, no nothing. It just got stuck. There was no road there. So if there's an issue of the winning of hearts and mind, the military has limited resources to do that. It talks about the issue of democracy and the dividends of democracy, which is a political issue. Now, if we have the presence of the state, and the presence of the state is not only through officers of the law, it's through a lot of other issues, in schools, development, and so on and so forth. If you have the presence of the state everywhere, where there is the withdrawal, as we're experiencing, of the state, and therefore when the state withdraws, you have ungoverned, and in fact, misgoverned spaces are also there, that you ensure that, so the political will to ensure that some of these things are done, and it makes the military or the security forces generally to be able to carry out their responsibility. So whole of society does not exclude the government, that's the executive and so on. Sometimes when we say whole of society, we just look at the common village person.
But they get security votes every month. What do they do?
Well, I don't want to get into that, but you and I know that security vote, as huge as it is, when they leave power, we hear where it goes to. When there is an audit or anything, we hear. So and it's an issue of utilizing the resources for what it is. And that's why I'm talking about the issue of governance here. If we don't get governance right, honestly, the former chief of defense staff said that all this boils to good governance. General Musa said that clearly, that you cannot win this war because we cannot kill ourselves out of this. We cannot say, okay, we have neutralized 20 bandits, we have neutralized this. As good as that is, but we cannot kill ourselves out of this. What it needs is that other aspect, the non-kinetic, in terms of development, in terms of good governance, in terms of inclusion, in terms of giving people feeling that they are part of the system, and so on and so on. Now, I am not justifying those that take up to criminality, banditry, and so on and so forth. No, not at all. Anybody that takes up arms against the state must be dealt with decisively. However, there is the need for us to look at what are those other factors that make their call, even to their local people, legitimate. Which we must delegitimize them. And just like so until we take governance seriously, until we ensure that the resources that is entrusted in our hands are used judiciously, because people know.
We will not make the kind of progress that we think we should.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Wing Commander. Let me get back to Prof. And I'm wondering, in addition to all of these, morale and discipline in the field often determines failure or success.
Yes.
So what kind of psychological reorientation would you say should be prioritized at this time?
At this point, when we look at these issues forensically, the soldier matches on his belly, his experience, and his morale, and also his level of resilience. Your cognitive capacity, so your ability to, let me put it in simple terms, to plan, to learn, your ability to adapt or adjust, your ability to reason or think, your ability to recall or remember. Everything that compromises that or affects that is an enemy that needs to be fought. If you buy all the technology and you have all the weaponized drones, the latest technology, in fact, you have consistent R&D, day and night, 24 hours, and the man manning it is compromised in any form or shape, you have lost the battle and you've also lost the war. anything that affects resilience, which is your ability to bounce back, even when you face adversity, even when you face stress and challenge. Because there was a study that was done a few years ago, and it was said that for every operations personnel in the field, at least a quarter of them will come down with what you call post-traumatic stress disorder. A good number of personnel are dealing with PTSD of various degrees. So you have mild and you also have complex PTSD. Along with the fact that we also have people who are genetically predisposed by virtue of the family they come from and then the genetic makeup of their father and mother and what we call our ancestors. Some of them are given to schizophrenia. Some people are struggling with BPD, bipolar disorder. Now,
but did this begin while they were in service? Because all of these are supposed to have been part of the screening process.
Now, you see, everything we are doing comes down to how does he think, what is he thinking, what is his level of resilience and his cognitive capacity at that point. At the point of recruitment, that's why I said forensically, right from recruitment even to retirement, because just like you have these active people who are no longer wearing the uniform but are able to provide their own input and provide support, we have thousands of retirees across the country who can still be trained to provide support in addition to the people wearing uniforms. Some of them are far older. There was a program that was held many years ago, and then it was the VAD, so Veterans Affairs. And we spoke to people who served during ECOMOG. And we spoke to some of these people who served during a different time. So when they were in service, they did not encounter this banditry that we have now. But however, they still have relevant skills and knowledge, but some of them need some technological updating. I was fortunate to have even met a soldier that was 92 or 94, and he was so smart, and he knew how to manipulate his phone and do so many things, and he was quite agile. So even though the physical capacity is in there, are we engaging these people mentally? So the man in the uniform right now, who has gone through close to 15 years of banditry, has seen so many of his colleagues killed. When we talk about reorientation, we need to now understand that we are not just only fighting a physical enemy, you also need to fight what is working against him mentally and cognitively. Structures need to be put in place to ensure that you have psychosocial support systems amongst even the spouses and the children in the barracks, because they are your first line of support for the family. A man you ask to go and fight but is having some issues at home, or is having some challenges in terms of budgeting or finance, because when we talk about welfare, people just tend to think of it in terms of money. When you put so many structures in place that we really need, the man has more resilience. The man's morale comes up, because people tend to think of morale as something where you do call and response, say morale, somebody will say hi. But morale is the nitty-gritty when the boots are on the ground, when the push comes to shove. How well is that man's morale being uplifted and also maintained? So the system needs to take another look at what is fighting the morale, what is fighting the resilience, and what can we do to prevent the crime. In the community, in terms of recruitment of the young people into banditry, work on their psyche. Now, some people say psychological warfare, but there's what you call, there's always what you can do preventively. Because if you go and say these people are bad, don't join them, but you don't give him a reason why. You have to answer the why. Like I said, a needs assessment. If in that particular community, basic infrastructure in terms of roads, water, schooling, and all of that, and they are not engaged. Because as I'm speaking to you now, close to over 70% of Nigeria's population is 35 years and below. If they are unemployed, underemployed, they feel there's no hope, the person is frustrated, he is a very vulnerable and very easy target to be recruited into any cause that is negative or criminal. So it is a two-pronged approach. You are looking at what is making the community conducive to providing recruits for these activities that are negative, and also what is also working against your men being effective and efficient. When you begin to address those issues, it's like a cutlass you sharpen properly. You sharpen it twice, it cuts once, rather than continuously trying to prove and push on something that is quite dull. So when you spoke about training and in training, you have to expand the context of what you call welfare and training, and begin to say, okay, the enemies we are fighting, apart from the physical people, what are these things that are also fighting their capacity to do their jobs and do it effectively?
You know, you've spoken a lot, and post-traumatic disorder, whatever they call it. For those of us that were in Maiduguri through the Boko Haram, we're not boots on ground, but I still have, anytime there's a loud noise, it sort of shakes me, and we're still going through the trauma of what happened. Thank you so very much for that. Let's bring in Major Adofiko into this conversation now. You've been into Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and other countries. So, given regional threats across West Africa, from terrorism to coups, how can Nigeria's new military assert, I'm using that word, assert stronger influence and cooperation within the ECOWAS region? Let's get your opinion.
First of all, let me say this. Our military remains respected in the sub-region for our history and for our established capability and capacity. In spite of the kind of, warfare, asymmetrical warfare we are facing in the country. But the truth of it is, we are gradually losing that fame, not because of lack of capacity, but because of this traditional phrase that physician, heal thyself. We were out there, and we are still out there helping people to heal themselves. And then suddenly we have our own version. I say our own version because there are a lot of peculiarities to our circumstance in Nigeria that are not known to them. Therefore, I will make a very simple suggestion that let us first fix our situation, and our relevance will not only be re-established but enhanced in the West African sub-region. What do I mean by fixing our situation? You see, we've been talking about security, and our thoughts have been on the armed forces, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. We forget that a strategic aspect of the base plate of our security architecture is the police and the paramilitary organizations. These ones should be made to do their jobs, should be built to do their job. And this takes me back quickly to a historical fact during the Nigerian Civil War in 1967 when it all started. It wasn't difficult for the government then to know that we did not have enough hands in the armed forces. And so they drafted in the police and the paramilitary elements into it, quickly polished them up, and molded them into a fighting force. Today, we are faced with the same two issues. One, the issue of ungovernable land, space, or whatever we call it. This space needs human boots on the ground. If we cannot enhance the strength, the capacity of the police, please, let us be informed that the police is the most remotely deployed element in the security architecture in the country. They have the police stations, they have the police posts and up divisions, and of course the state commands all over the country. How effective are they in the performance, in the capacity to play their primary role? I'll give you a very typical example. A community was attacked, and that community, a report was quickly sent to the police, the DPO, to please come there. The DPO had only 2 vehicles. One of the vehicles was on an assignment. The second one, he withdrew it, and that second one had no fuel to take him there. The community had to mobilize and buy fuel. I'm not telling you a story, I'm telling you an experience. They had to buy 20,000 naira fuel to be able to move that truck to take the response. By the time they got there, the damage had been done and the elements had gone. These are issues we should begin to look at. Coming to your question, the sub-region, back to my position, let us first fix our best plate, fix our fundamental disposition, our existing position. And that's why I say, look, these young guys who have just put on space now to do the job for us, at the West African sub-regional level, they are very respected. They are very appreciated. They are known. But we must fix our home settings. Physicians, let us heal ourselves so that we can continue to talk tough and talk proud. That is it. The two elements, one, ungovernable space, let us quickly occupy those space. There's no point. We are recruiting, there was a recommendation recently, I don't know if it's now an adopted policy, to recruit some forest guards and neighborhood guards and community guards. If these guys are fit and willing to work for the nation, move them in, train them quickly, push them into the armed forces, and let these ungoverned spaces be quickly occupied. We had the experience from the Northeast. The challenge we had there was, yes, the military will come in and deal decisively with the enemy. The enemy will be annihilated and set on the run, as the case might be. But we did not have the capacity to hold those grounds. So I want to appeal that, yes, our regional relevance is still there. Our regional capacity is still there. Our regional understanding is still there in the West African sub-region. But the most important thing we need to do quickly is to fix our base plate. Physicians, let us quickly heal ourselves. Put away this insurgency. The other day, the state governor came out, he said, oh, he has a new group coming up in his state, whatever is the name. Please, look at Lakurawa, we had somewhere. The news was that from the Kwara end of there, we had started seeing the sniffing in of Lakurawa, now it's a serious. These can be nipped in the bud. There are things that, if you check your bag of intelligence development, intelligence gatherings, these are things that are there. The decisive will, political and physical will to deal and clear this our base plate. Once this platform is cleared, our base plate is cleared, believe you me, the respect from the region is automatic. They know what we can do. When we get there...
Thank you, Major Adofiku. Thank you very much. We first deal with our own issues before we go out there. Thank you very much. We'll pause here for a break so that when we return, the conversation continues.
7 a.m. and 9 a.m. on the network service of the NTA.
All right, thank you very much for staying with us. This is still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. If you've just joined us, and we are discussing the task before the new Chief of Defense Staff and the service chiefs. But we've got some messages coming in, and we'd like to take them now, just so that we get responses from our guests. And from Ahmed Baba Dikwa from Maiduguri, as I welcome the new service chiefs, he writes, I urge a strategic shift in the Northeast. We must adopt a more offensive posture. This should be powered by the extensive use of drone technology to precisely degrade enemy capabilities before deploying ground troops for effective mopping up operations. This will maximize success and minimize casualties. Okay, thank you. And from Timothy Bawa in Niger State, good morning and God bless you. God bless you too. I suggest we bring in all intelligence networks into security. Informants should be arrested while communicating with bandits. From Joshua Ajav from Makurdi, good morning, Nigeria. I advise use of intelligence technology to acquire information for security. And finally, this one has no name, but reads, the federal government and state governments should look at this whole internal insecurity and safety differently. Train our police and equip them to deal with the internal challenges and let our military guard the borders.
Okay, I have some that come in from on my tab too, from Mohammed Awal Musa Afamai Kanu. He said the service chiefs have pledged a comprehensive effort to improve national security. May Allah help them in the course of their duties. Amin summa amin. And Chikedim from Wari, Delta State, said, with these appointments, Nigerians expect enhanced coordination and strategic leadership in addressing security issues, improved troop welfare, and a more effective defense system. The government's commitment to providing sufficient funding will be crucial in enabling the military to discharge their duties effectively. Chikedim from Wari. And Nandom Web from Jos said, Nigeria has the military might, but when you use politics to begin to dilute the effort of the service chiefs and commanders, then it will still be the same old story. I thank the guests in this discussion. God bless the armed forces and their families. God bless Nigeria. And Emmanuel Joseph Bello from Jos also said, I congratulate the new CDS and service chiefs. They should bring new innovations to fight the enemies of our country. Okay.
Maybe we'll take responses,
Yes.
quick responses, because we are gradually winding up now.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes, good. Just like they pointed out, two things from the views of the viewers. One is the issue about repeated call for drone, usage of drone, which is technology which we have talked about here. And the other one is expand and strengthening the police. Really, the police aspect cannot be overstretched because that is something that is very, very paramount. We need the Nigerian police that will make sure that they do their work. Unfortunately, today, is lacking in Nigeria. The police are not doing what they should do. That is why you have this overwhelming pressure on the military. Everyone is looking up to military. When there are issues, even simple issues of domestic affairs, people would rather want to look for the military to come and intervene instead of seeking the alternative, better measure, civil means of doing it. They not also talked about that put a lot of pressure on the military that when they're supposed to be advancing, they can't because they had to protect the gained grounds, and that created a lot of problems, and it's still creating problems to today. So the police needs to be a lot of surgical operation, I would suggest, in terms of their capacity. We have personnel in the police who will be ready to do it if the leadership can get it right. Then the drone thing, we can't overstretch.
It's become modern. That's what it is now.
It is. But just like it has been agreed here, we need personnel who will be able to, who will be physically fit and mentally agile to be able to use them. And look, issue that happened in Tudumbiri and Iran, I can never forget them. Tudumbiri case, the mistaken bombing by the UAV, it's not intentional, but because these people moved and they'll continue moving. In Iran, criminals, these terrorists decide to stay within the community after everything has been scrabbled and all that. So these are the things that affects using UAV drones and all that. But we can bind the society to the side of the country, let them know that this is the fight for everybody. It's not just the security agencies.
Right. Major, he said, Major made a mention of the porosity of our borders, actually, while you respond to the messages that came in. So what partnerships should Nigeria prioritize to strengthen defense capabilities and counter transnational crime that we see all because of our borders, actually?
Well, in terms of the borders, I think long enough there has been identification of the northeast general area, and that's as part or one of the major sources or routes through which we have this arms and so on. So the multinational joint task force, which Nigeria is very active, in fact, in a way leading, has been doing well in that, but there is need to kind of reinvigorate it and ensure that it's able to achieve, whether it's to be able to take care of that part of the border. Now we know, like we've said, that there are agencies that are primarily tasked with those responsibilities, and what we have faced in the past, or a lot of times, is that we keep shifting responsibilities. There's a primary organization that is supposed to handle something, once it fails, instead of looking at what happens or what can we do to improve that, or consequences even, we just shift it to the next guy available. We keep shifting. So many things have been shifted to the military, to the extent that the military, and I hear a lot we're asking for them to do this, do that. Now, if they concentrate on all that, they will lose sight of their primary responsibility. And I think that is what is happening. A lot of things that should be the structure that should have been handled by other people, we are now heaping that on the military. We have to be careful to ensure that we charge the military with their primary responsibilities and ensure that other institutions, other levels of government, and so on, are doing their own responsibilities. So when we say whole of government, we are holding everybody accountable for what they are supposed to do. When we do that, then it relieves the military of some of those things that are completely secondary, but that in fact help, like she was talking about in terms of psychosocial. If a man, for example, has his kids going to hospital, knowing that that is taken care of by the Ministry of Health or somewhere, you're not in the theater thinking that if my child or wife or any member of family is sick, I don't have means. If other aspects are taken care of by those responsible sectors of the economy or society, you find out that the military now focuses on what it's doing. Lastly, we can't overemphasize the need for technology, yes, but also the need for numbers. No matter, like I said, technology is a multiplier. You need the numbers.
Of boots on ground.
That way, that's the only way you can occupy. Because sometimes you need to show presence, you need to occupy, you need to dominate the theater. Lastly, because I don't know if you come back to me here.
Yes.
Lastly, I want to also emphasize that for the military to be very effective, and for these service chiefs to achieve with the energy and so on that they are coming for, and the support, you can see the support from every Nigerian. That issue of blow in the line of command has to be looked at, and we have to ensure that if we're having a CDS, then he should be a CDS that is actually in control. The CDS should be the person that deploys. The services should recruit, train, and equip. The CDS should have the capacity to deploy when he feels that this is how to achieve Mr. President.
Without political interference.
Of course.
All right, thank you. And I'm saying there's something we don't talk about a lot, which is leadership style. How important is this in commanding loyalty in the field and being able to direct operations? Recently, of course, we can't pretend not to have heard, was there a coup attempt, was there not? It was in the public space. But how does leadership style work in all of this?
Leadership style sends clear messages. Body language sends clear messages. We can talk the talk, but we have to also walk the walk. Leadership has to be constantly communicating with the last man on the field, the last private, the last airman, the last rating on the field. And that is why mentorship is key. There's a paper I'm supposed to present on mentorship styles in regimentation. And if you do not have, for example, NCOs, senior NCOs, RSMs not being able to pass the knowledge and experience that they have and impart in these young men, because the truth is that these people we call other ranks are more in number than officers. So if the boots on the ground, as it were, that are doing the job are not inspired correctly to do what they are supposed to do, you will not get the best out of them. We've been talking about other services. Interagency support is key and critical. I will talk about what we call small and light weapons. Where did it pass through? How did it enter? Why is it going around? What is the role of, for example, ensuring that local gun runners are not modifying weapons to carry out dangerous activities? Who is conducting the training on all these things? So it has to be a very big picture, but with small components that has accountability attached to specific agencies. Putting so much pressure on the military, and like he said, we have police presence in 774 local governments. And at the end of the day, you do not ensure that it is a cohesive, strategic, well-coordinated effort with everybody's roles being clearly spelled out. You will have people duplicating functions in one area and another one. Nobody really wants to do that. So you have to work on the psyche, ensure that the people winning hearts and minds, ensuring that there's safety perceptions, because it's a feedback loop. If the man has morale, he does his job well. He does his job well, operations and command is intact. You are able to achieve more results. There's more safety. There's a sense of calm. The community feels more involved. They feel safer. And it becomes that circle that goes. So how do you break that circle? There's a local proverb that says that when you look at a masquerade dancing and you look at it from different corners of the field, you have more insight into what is happening. So I would advise that these new chiefs take a very broad view, a strategic view of the different components that have been underutilized within their systems that they can upgrade.
They've been in the system, so they
so areas that they have identified. Now they have the power. You know, you've been looking at it as a masquerade watcher from one corner. Now you have shifted.
You have shifted to the power.
You have not shifted now. So now that you have come in, you now bring in other components. Psychological warfare is key.
Yes, indeed, it's key. Now, let's bring in Major Adofiko now for his final comments, and I would like you to talk about what should Nigerians realistically, expect from this new team in the next 1 year, as you round up your contributions.
In 2 minutes, please.
Well, I want to be a prophet this time around to say that this team is a good team. This team needs our all support. This team needs, when I say all support, like we've been discussing, right from the ordinary man on the street to the men in the executive, the legislative, and the judicial arms of governments, at all levels. This team, I believe, will deliver, but they should not be distracted. No politicization of any aspect of their professional activities. That is a challenge that we have currently been experiencing in the system. This team is a team that we should all look out for. Like somebody was talking about the nature of leadership and its effectiveness. Looking at their pictures, if I may say this on a lighter note, you will see that these are a bunch of serious guys. They are the kind of fellows that in our airborne days we will say they are good to go. You just open the hatchet and they'll be out there to do the required damage. Again, I fall back to one thing. When I talk about support for them, which has been re-emphasized, thank God, by the rest of us there. Please and please, let the other arms of security arrangements, the police, the immigration, the customs, and everybody, play their roles, be held responsible to play their roles. And once they are held responsible by being adequately equipped, by being adequately supported to play their roles, the military will remain with its primary assignment, and the assignment would always be decisively dealt with as it is. For me, I want to say that from the discussion this morning, I have more hope, because I could see, even at Abuja setting there, you have people who are reasoning, looking through us in the field like mirrors or like prisms of water. Please and please, whoever is listening, whatever has been discussed this morning, may it be converted into quick action so that these boys can get out there and do the job, and we shall enjoy our Christmas in less than 90 days.
Amen to that. So let's get yes, we have like 2 minutes to go. So, okay, I hear it's time. The conversation is getting very, very interesting. And one other thing we need to note is that President Tinubu has, initiated the revamping of the police training school. And I believe by the time that is done, coordination within the agencies will be, apt. So let me thank you so much for coming on this program. Mr. Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired PhD Secretary, Security and Development Expert. As always, it's a pleasure having you here. and Professor Ehis Odiji Okpataku, behavioral change and regimental effectiveness consultant, as always. I'm meeting you for the first time, and I really appreciate it.
She also consults non-kinetic interventions.
And she sort of balanced the thing. I like a woman who knows her onions. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very
much. Patrick Agbumbo, President, CEO, Security Watch Africa Initiatives. Well, thank you so much. And Major Gabriel Adofiku, retired MD CEO, Damex Consultants Limited, Development and Security Consultant, one-time Secretary General, retired Army, Navy and Air Force Officers Association, and consultant on integrated community development initiatives under the UN SDP programs in several states in Nigeria, Ghana and Sierra Leone. Thank you so much, and we wish you a happy Christmas in the next 90 days or so. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We hope that you've been able to be informed on so many issues in the security architecture of Nigeria, and I hope that those who are watching, the stakeholders, will take note of this conversation today and implement them. I am Juma Yusuf. Thanks for watching.